So let's then break it down, because the promise to everyone was that we're going to explain what a writer does, what a director does, and what a producer does. So let's start with the writer, because I think both you and I have written for clients, but in very different ways. So walk me through then, when should people hire a writer?
So if you say to yourself, if you don't get on camera because you're blocked by, I don't know what I'm going to say, you need a writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this experience maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was an investment banker who, he's like, well, I know I need a video. I just don't know what I would say. And I just started asking him questions. And then he goes, my job is like, I'm like, what do you do? He goes, well, it's like finances is a box, and you sort of peek into the box and you make your decisions based on that. My job is open up the box and take out all the boxes, so show you everything and make decisions. And I'm like, stop talking. I'm like, that's the most brilliant visual ever. And he's like, really? And I'm like, well, dude, that's brilliant. That is the most brilliant visual analogy I've ever heard for financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and that is so easy to shoot. We're just going to get a bunch of boxes and you taking it apart. And still to this day, he's like, okay, if you think so. I'm like, if I think so, dude, brilliant. But it takes someone, a writer, to do that discovery call, be the curious one, be
Mm-hmm.
the detective, to be like, hey, so if you had $20 burning a hole in your pocket, what would you do with it? And I would spend it on my dog. I'm like, oh, you have a dog. Okay. And then just steamroll into the next bit and just keep digging for the story. You're going to, as a writer in that discovery call, we're going to have all this fodder.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need this much to tell that 60-second story,
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is creating a script that can be delivered over and over again to take us through the roller coaster, as you like.
Mm-hmm. Now, walk me through, because when you're listening to that person and you're writing their script already in your mind. So what are some of the things that you're listening for?
Well, in most of the clients, I'm kind of famous for humanizing corporate. That's where I come in. So I like to have a script that's like, hey, tell me what you do here. Tell me why your clients do. Tell like the nuts and bolts. And then I ask a lot of weird questions, like, if you were on death row, what would be your last meal? And why were you on death row? And just things that just throw them off and just get them to open up. And in those sorts of questions, my most beloved question is, when you walk into a room, what is the theme song that plays? Because I don't even need to, that's not going to be an answer in the script. It's not going to be an answer in the final. But what it is that's going to show me your brand without realizing it. What song you pick is the editing style. Now I know the lighting style. Now I know the camera angles. I don't know why I know that, but that's what I get paid to do, is to just translate that brand into a visual story. And I find someone's choice in music for their own theme song does that really well for me.
I wanted to learn more about your process, because when I've written for clients as well, in the very beginning, I would write their scripts for them. So I was actually, especially in the very, very beginning, I was picking experts where their expertise was something that I was already familiar with. So that was a lot of like finance experts. I was really interested in personal finance, read a bunch of books. And so I was able to write out their talking points and then have them go on air and deliver those talking points. But I noticed very early in that beginning was that when they had memorized my talking points and did what they could to put it into their own words, it still felt like an actor delivering lines, like on the first take. Like they haven't necessarily dove deep into the why or personalized it in any way. So I've actually evolved my process and how I work with clients, and I'm listening more for their word choice. Like, how do they want to choose those words? And it's more of like, I'm like an editor, and I'm challenging them for clarity. Like, when you were talking about the work that you do, you said that you humanize corporate. And my first thought was, no, you humorize corporate. You find the humor in corporate. You're not making them humans, you're finding the humor, which is that really like guttural, primitive bonding moment between humans. So that's where my writer skills come in. It's more, are you clarity, and are you actually delivering? Are you being honest? That's what I want to say. Are you being honest with the words that you're choosing to express yourself with? So I've actually done a lot less writing for people and just a lot more teaching people how to find the right words to express themselves. Because once you teach someone how to do that, their story is limitless. As long as I was writing the scripts for clients, they were stuck with my level of awareness. And there even some, and I was also stuck with working with experts where I already had a lot of background knowledge in their specialty, like a fashion expert who came to me. I'm like, I don't know. I know how to dress to hide my curves. Like I know how to pop on camera. That's the extent of what I know. So when I made that shift, well, I'm actually not going to help you find the right words within yourself. I've just been able to open up who I can work with and how I work with them.
I would find that fascinating, and I don't think that way, which I find interesting about you every day. But I will write a script for them, but I am basing it off of the recording I did off of this discovery call, because it's in that as a writer for me is I'm taking note of their cadence and how they speak and their word choices, so that I can write a script that is deliverable, that is them. Because a lot of times I'll send them, hey, just give me some point form on this, and they'll write me a whole novel. And as you and I both have discussed at length, writing and talking are two completely different worlds.
Completely different. And I think, what's interesting to me is we have it's the same end goal, different approaches. Your deliverable is also different because you're interviewing them and crafting the video that you're ultimately going to shoot and edit for them. So that's where your director skills come into play.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more then about directing.
That's why I don't shy away from a script, because I know I have that skill set of like, this is how I take these words and put them through somebody's mouth. And so, it could be a 60-second piece of script, but we've recorded for half an hour, and it's just me saying, listen, punch this word, and it's said this way. And like, these are the most important parts. It's this word right here, and just coaching them to get it out that way. And then it's in the edit, because they're not delivering a TED talk to me. It's not one live performance. So I do have the beauty of, as we say, the magic of TV is I'm going to edit this thing up. As long as I got you hitting those words in that way, splice, and it's going to look amazing. But I guarantee you wouldn't have been able to do this by yourself.
No. Especially with, I think of the clients who hire you for their, I think you call them video business cards. When I think in terms of like the client journey, like, how the client is encountering your information, by the time they get to your beautifully edited and hilariously scripted video business cards, they're at the point of sale. Like the client, they're just looking for any excuse to feel comfortable with that decision to hire you for their services. So that video, it does need to be engaging. It needs to be highly produced, and it needs to be authentically them. Because especially if you're a service provider, once I hit that buy button, I'm now working with you. So if you don't deliver that personality that I'm now comfortable with and trust you with my whatever journey I need to be on, I now feel like there's a bait and switch. So I think that that's where your heightened storytelling and highly produced storytelling is the most impactful, because that video is being used at the point of sale moment. That is the moment where they're like, I've heard a lot. I'm just about ready to give you my thousands of dollars to work with you, but I don't know. And so if anything kind of goes off or wonky in that space, they're done. And you're not getting them back. So you actually need something that is highly produced.
And that is what that director said to us is, you guys know the imponderables. It's my job to make you look more like those guys, that brand. And so that's why I'm in these discovery calls. I couldn't write a script for someone I had not met and talked to, because I don't know them. But my job is to write this script so that it's them. And a lot of them will come back and say like, oh, what if I deliver it wrong? It's like, you can't. It's a story of you. You can't. I'm not asking you to be an actor and play like a drug addicted cop and then like a single mom. Like, no, you're just playing you, this real estate agent for you know. And that's where I like what you do is like, it comes from the authenticity inside, and you can't mess that up.
Yeah. Well, so we've covered what a writer does. So a writer, if you don't know what to say, you need to work with a writer. And we've presented two very different ways to write and have your story be written. And then if you want to look the best. If you want to have your authentic self presented in the best possible light, you hire a director. I'm going to quiz you. What is your understanding of what a producer does?
So
No.
it's funny because there's several different answers. There's the person that paid for it is
Yes.
also a producer.
Yep.
The person that connected them to that one person they needed in order to make, oh, put me down as a producer. But from an actual real working standpoint,
Yeah.
is a producer is the one that's shaping this entire, all these diasporic things. So oftentimes it's like a producer will get hired to be like, okay, we're going to create this piece. I take on that role in some of my projects. Is like, okay, we are producing this piece and we need a cinematographer and we need a director and we need a writer, and putting together the team that's going to create this piece. So you're the producer, sort of the hub of the whole thing. And then on a grander scale is like, and now all of these pieces that were created, how do they all fit together into one giant nice package?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, I'll share with the folks at home, if you're encountering this talk for the first time in this way, you've missed many stops and starts from us from a technical standpoint today. And to me, that exemplifies what a producer does. So a producer does all those things that you described, connects the key players, finds the money. And then I would add the producer also ensures that it's being delivered in the most efficient and strategic way possible. So in terms of connection to the business world, the producer is the business of media. The producer is the business of creation. So I'll walk you through what my brain was going through every time our live got kicked off. Still don't know to this day if it was my internet or your internet. Someone's internet kept going wonky. We would freeze. We would get kicked off. So my whole thing is, well, it's the process of elimination, right? I use a recording platform called StreamYard. So the first process of elimination was maybe StreamYard is what's messing us up. So we went to Instagram, just old school. We can just go straight to the platform. We'll record it in Instagram. Got kicked off multiple times. And so then I just decided, you know what? Let's just record it. The path of least resistance is for us to record it. And so that if there are any stops and starts, we can just edit that out. Classic will fix it in post. So to me as a producer, it's not about cutting and running. It's about, we have a job to do. There is an obstacle in our place. What are the things that are available to me right now to get either over this obstacle, under this obstacle, or around the obstacle? That is what a producer does.
Right. And I was very happy to have you as the other half of this at that point. Because I was out of answers. Completely. I was like, well, I don't know what we're going to do. I was literally like, you know what? I'm just going to come over to your place and I'm going to bring the camera and we're going to do it my way.
Yeah.
That was literally my next thought. But I'm like, I bet. And then you text me and like, hey, let's try this. I'm like, oh, that's okay. But I'm ready to drive over.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, I actually had a discovery call this morning with someone who she, again, has a big vision of what she wants to execute. And she just keeps getting stopped in different ways. You know, she's either stopping herself or she takes an execution on something and then gets blocked somewhere. So it's the constant blocks that are getting in her way. And when I was talking to her and I kept saying like, do you need me to execute this? Do you need me to write? And as she was describing what she was dealing with, I'm like, you just need a producer. You just need someone to be your touch point so that as you are running into these challenges, I can take in all this information, keep an eye on the end goal of what we want to create, and then find the most efficient way to get there. It's the efficiency of creativity that I think is what makes my offerings very unique in a way.
Yeah, for anyone if you're looking at me saying, wow, that they create great stuff, it's like, yeah, but you know how great it is for us to have a producer working on this? And, you know, sometimes that's in-house and whatever, but it's so great to have someone who's great. You're taking care of all the stuff so that the creative team can just be creative. And so that the subject can just be the subject. And the sound guy can just be the sound guy. Like, it's all of those things. It's you know, yes, let's get a script supervisor that can just concentrate on the script so that the director can direct and the cinematographer can shoot. Like you're just going to get a better piece if everyone's concentrated on their own little thing. And the producer, I feel that umbrella of like taking care of all the crap, you know?
Yeah. And you absolutely nailed it. And actually, this is, I've been leaning into on-camera confidence for the last year, but now I'm the newest offering that I'm developing, and I've introduced it to a couple of people. I'm calling it Produce Like a Producer, because there are so many people that I've encountered. I've worked with them on their TV stuff. So I've worked with them on their higher level media, and they've all hired someone to, I'll put in quotes, do their social media. And it's there, and what they as an individual are lacking is the ability to give that creative direction and let the person who is the creator do the creation. There are so many people who think, well, you just put it into Instagram, you just put it into LinkedIn, you just create a post. And it's like, no, you still have to be able to give them, especially if you are developing a business that is trading on your specialized knowledge. The reason why so many service providers look and sound exactly the same on LinkedIn is because they've all hired people to create their content who are now like turning to ChatGPT for their content. So you've got these very surface level shares that are very, very samey because they're not in your brain. So the latest offering that I have for people is to learn how to approach your content like a producer. We're just mapping out, this is what the system that's in place. Everyone has their, I call it their program. So how you want to show up on social media is your own television program. And we just bring it to light, we map it out, and then strategize at what stage are you bringing people in to take care of your content. And the closer you get. So right now, how I'm set up with my system, the people that I've hired to bring in to help me they're cutting and pasting, right? They're content loading. They're putting it into the schedulers. They're putting it into places, and they're keeping the actual source information organized. But the actual expression, like the picking of the clips, the writing of the captions, that's me, because that's all my specialized knowledge. But then in the system that I've mapped out, I know at some point I'm going to hire someone with a media background to then now pull the clips. So I need to have it documented, what I'm looking for, what are the values, what makes a good clip, how to format it properly, and all that stuff. So that's my producer mind thinking, if I get to the point where I'm completely hands off, how do I make sure that the instructions are in place so that it's still my voice? I either make the time to make the content, or I make the time to educate my team on what that content is. And to me, I think that is a huge distinction between thinking like a producer and thinking like someone where your thought leadership is an afterthought and you just hired someone to, do it.
Yeah, it's funny because you're on the other end of it where the content's already like reality TV creation, where I'm on the other side where it's from a writing standpoint, and several projects that I like, bigger projects is that are more long term. Like, the sketch show that me and a buddy are writing and producing is, oh my God, what do we write about? We literally and where do we set it? We just put down 20 things, like janitors, guys playing basketball, da 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 da. And it's like, okay, we want to make fun of that thing. This is the script, and it'll be in one of these delivery methods. And so I just went through this with a client of like, okay, you guys do a Tuesday thing. You guys do talking in the car. You guys do, gals sitting around drinking wine. Those are all the delivery methods. So now, what are, in your expertise, what are the 5 things you want to talk about this month? Okay, talking about A, we're going to do that as talking in the car. This tip B, we're going to do as girls drinking wine. And it's like, that's how you have to create these forms and these templates and sandboxes. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's like, you can't play in a sandbox if there's no box. Like, you need to create within this box, and the limitations is, as a creative, is what we have to self-impose. You have to have the discipline to self-impose restrictions on your creativity so that you can create.
Yes. Yeah. I always say decision feeds creativity, indecision feeds fear. So yeah, just make those decisions. And I think too, like what you talked, with the having the different columns for either sketch comedy or with a client, that is producing. It's coming up. It's seeing the story structure. It's more project management than anything else. Like, it's one part writing, one part project management, one part people management, and then another part magician. Just making something appear from thin air. It's a little bit of producing. But it's true. If you have this system in place, you can then take action. and you can take action faster, you can create more efficiently, you can create more effectively. If you don't know what this structure is, if you don't know what the plan is, you're not going to be able to find opportunities to improve. You're not going to find opportunities to create faster, more efficiently. You're just always going to be spinning your wheels and starting with a blank slate every single time.